Tell him, McCluskey. Tell him what time it is.
Little Hen says it's time to rock and roll.
All you people are so scared of me.
Come quietly or there will be trouble.
Man, that's just me.
I'm Batman.
This is Sparta!
There is a tiger in the bathroom!
I'm an excellent driver.
If it bleeds, we can kill it.
Quiz, hotshot.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Hello and welcome to this week's Monday Movie Show. This week sees some interesting releases. We've got reviews of those coming up shortly as after we've got some news regarding the Oscars, which if you heard that clip there at the start of the show, did you recognise that, Stuart, at all?
My brain's not working.
You know, it's your favourite film of the last year.
Ted?
Well, no, sorry, not the last year, then the year before. I get it wrong.
Warrior.
No, okay, it's the artist. I can't believe you didn't get that. You so should have got that. Coming up on this evening's show in the cinema section here, we have reviews of these movies.
Yeah, we have horror film presented by Guillermo del Toro with Mama. We have the most expensive independent film with Cloud Atlas. A small German drama movie with Laura, or Laura, depending on how you pronounce it. And a comedy drama of sorts with Song for Marion.
But first we're going to go straight into the UK box office top 10. Starting at number 10 with Flight.
Yeah, Flight. Denzel Washington was up for an Oscar. You'll find out later on if he won it or not. Hint, hint, he didn't. It's a decent enough film. It's a really good drama. It's more of a drama centered around the addiction that somebody has rather than the disaster that's at the start and the end of the film itself. It's really good, well acted by Denzel Washington. He's really, really good in the movie. John Goodman crops up and he plays an OTT kind of role, but it's a good film. And
number 9 is Lincoln.
Yeah, Andy's still yet to see Lincoln, which he's cursing the fact that he's still not seen it.
I am, yes, because I do want to see it.
Yeah, I don't know what more I can say about Lincoln. It's a fantastic drama. It's Spielberg being reeled back slightly.
And Daniel Day-Lewis did well in it, so we hear. Number 8 is Sammy's Great Escape.
Yeah, it's the second in the series. It's based on a German cartoon series. It's about turtles that get kidnapped and then they have to try and come up with a plan of escaping. It's sort of like Finding Nemo with turtles. The only reason why it's in the top 10 is because the children were off. Any other week it would have gone direct to DVD.
So it's basically Finding Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No, just Finding Turtles.
Just Finding Turtles. That's kind of disappointing. Number 7, Django Unchained.
Again, it's another one of those films that stuck around in the box office. It's done really well for itself. It's typical Quentin Tarantino. He is the weakest element of the film because he does crop up in about 20 minutes from the end. He can't act. He should never be in his movies. But everybody else in the movie is really well acted, especially Samuel Jackson and Christoph Waltz.
And number 6, I Give It a Year.
Which we've still both yet to see. It's a small little British comedy film about a couple who marry and then their friends say, I'll give their marriage a year. And it follows them and through their first year of marriage and how they're not actually properly compatible. It's not like the opposite of what you get in a romantic comedy, because normally you get it where it leads up to them getting married. This way it's them getting married and then you find out what happens after that.
I was going to try and see this if I could today, but something came up short notice, so I haven't had a chance. And number 5 is Beautiful Creatures, which you still haven't seen. I don't think you're going to go and see, are you?
Nope.
It is kind of a Twilight-ish film, but replacing werewolves and vampires with witches. And it's a whole thing of it's based on the first of a 4 series of books, so it is very similar to Twilight in that regard. What it doesn't do, what it does better than Twilight, is to have a really good cast, great performances, well written, well directed, and thoroughly enjoyable from start to finish. And number 4 is Les Miserables.
Again, it's another one of those films where it's stuck around, and I think Les Miserables is a pretty big exception. It's one of those movies where we didn't even think that it would do as well as it has. We thought it would do quite well, but not as well as it has. And the fact that it stayed around in the top 5 since it's been released is a miracle for this kind of film, because musicals don't normally do this well. It's really well acted. It is a proper musical. It's an enjoyable film, and if you've not seen it already, then I don't know what else I can say.
Practically 36 million at the UK box office, and that will go up after the Oscars. Number 3, this is 40, new entry this week.
Yeah, a lot of people are using the joke that this is 40 minutes too long. It's not 40 minutes too long. It's about an hour and a half too long. The film itself is on for 2.5 hours. And I know it seems drastic cutting about an hour and a half to make it an hour film. That's because it's 2 films rather than 1 movie. It's a drama which centres around a couple who are trying to survive during the credit crisis kind of thing, even though the house that they live in, the things that they buy, are quite expensive stuff. And then it's a comedy movie, the typical Judd Apatow kind of stuff, which is gross out humour, etc., etc. It doesn't work on either front. It's not funny, and you don't even give a damn about the couple, because, like I said, they live in an extravagant house. They have lots of really nice food. They have expensive stuff, yet they're mourning that they've got no money. It's a pointless movie, and it's not funny at all.
Number 2, Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, as Andy said last week, and I'm going to nick it, this is the closest Disney have come to a Pixar film. It's it is very Pixar-esque kind of movie for Disney. It's really enjoyable, extremely enjoyable. I think when I went through the top 10 on Following the Nerds on Thursday,
you also took my line.
Yeah, I know, I'm nicking it because I think it is suitable. It's suitable for it perfectly describes the film. And they said that the host of Following the Nerds said that their kids didn't get it as much as they did, and a few of the jokes is mainly aimed at adults and sort of like the older gamer. But I think that that's where it's wrong, because a lot of kids probably still enjoy the colourful part of the film when it involves the races. But there is everything in this film for any age that you are.
And the number 1 movie at the UK box office, a new entry this week for A Good Day to Die Hard, or as I'm sure Stuart's going to call it in a moment,
A Good Day to Die of Boredom. Because, yeah, I was bored through the film. It's just a typical cash cow film. It's this year's Taken 2. It's just a pointless movie. It was made because I think Bruce Willis now, he knows his limits, and the movies that he decides to do now are movies where it's probably easier for him to make a few bucks, some money. Rather than trying to push himself now, he's going to do the safer films, and so this is a safe film for him. Red 2, it'll probably be the same kind of averageness that the original Red was, and so he is going down the line of being an Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, because he is getting on with age, and this should just stop the series now. But there is going to be another one, unfortunately.
So that is the UK box office for this week. Quickly going to go through a news story, which is that Zero Dark 30 actor Jason Clarke, who also starred in Lawless, is going to star in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now on to some other movie news regarding the Oscars and some awards.
Yeah, one other quick piece of news which I saw is that Vinnie Jones is in talks to be in Expendables 3.
Okay.
Silence. Right there.
Sorry, I just saw a tumbleweed go flying past the window.
Yeah, there was 2 award ceremonies over the weekend. There was the big award ceremony, and then there was the small award ceremony. I think I'll go through the big award ceremony first. The Razzies. Yeah, quickly just go over the Razzies. The Razzies are the ones that celebrate the worst of the year, and there were only 3 lots of winners. Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn took away 8 prizes, including Worst Picture, Worst Director, Worst Actor, Worst Actress, and practically everything else. The only other 2 winners/losers was Adam Sandler for the 2nd year running. He won Worst Actor for That's My Boy, and Rihanna, she won Worst Supporting Actress for her first film, Battleship.
I'm going to do something here. I'm going to do something I really shouldn't, but I'm going to stand up for Adam Sandler there, because of all the comedy things that there were last week and in the films, he was not the worst actor of them all. He really wasn't, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's true, and it's just a pity that the nominations for the Razzies were announced before movie 43 came out, because I think that'll have swept the board, and so next year it'll have swept the board.
Everyone will forget it by next year.
No, I think the Razzies will remember it. because it is that dire. Yeah, and the other award ceremony that took place yesterday was the 85th Academy Awards, or as they actually called it now, the 2013 Oscars. They're dropping the number from it from now on. So next year's, it'll not be the 86th Academy Awards. It will just be known as the 2014 Oscars. They've decided to drop that. I don't know why, but whatever.
So Super Bowl.
Yeah, pretty much. There wasn't a sort of like a runaway winner this year. There was one film that won the most awards, which was Life of Pi. It won 4. And then there were a couple of films that won 3 awards, which were Les Miserables and Argo. And Django Unchained and Lincoln walked away with 2. But we'll just go through a couple of the biggest ones. Best Picture went to Argo.
Yep, I agree with that. I have no problem with that. Argo, I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, there was 9 entries into the Best Picture this year instead of 10. I don't know why the Oscars decided to extend it to 10 and then drop it to 9.
From what I remember, the 9 that there are, there's only half of them didn't really deserve to be in it.
Pretty much. Best Director went to Ang Lee for Life of Pi.
I kind of disagree with that, but it is deserved.
Yeah,
it's not an unqualified win.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you on that front. Best Actor went to Daniel Day-Lewis for Lincoln, which
I still haven't seen, and I want to see it.
Which we actually guessed this. We knew that. I knew that he was going to win Best Actor. It was
kind of obvious after the BAFTAs.
Yeah, it was between him and Denzel Washington, so yeah. We knew that he was going to win that. Best Actress went to Jennifer Lawrence for Silver Linings Playbook.
Again, like Ang Lee, I think that's a not unjustified win, but I don't know that she was the best out of all the ones there. It is a good performance in that.
Emmanuelle Riva, she was getting lots of plaudits leading up to the Oscars because she won the BAFTA for Best Actress, and it was starting to become a 2-horse race between Jennifer Lawrence and Emmanuelle Riva. So the other ones, I don't think they had much of a chance. Naomi Watson, Covenza Wallace, I don't think they had a chance of winning. It was between Jennifer Lawrence and Emmanuelle Riva. Best Supporting Actor went to Christoph Waltz for Django Unchained.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
Yeah, again, it was between Christoph Waltz, in my opinion, and Tommy Lee Jones for
Lincoln. I still haven't seen that, and so I don't know. But definitely, I think Christoph Waltz deserved that. Yeah,
and the only other one that I want to mention is Best Supporting Actress, which was obvious. It went to Anne Hathaway for Les Miserables.
Yeah, a good. Yeah, no, I have no problem with that one.
Any other ones you want to quickly mention on the list?
I'm trying to think which one it was now. They had Amore did win for Best International Movie.
Best Foreign Language Film.
Best Foreign Language Film, yeah, which I am glad about because that is a fantastic film. I don't think you've seen it yet, have you?
No, I haven't seen it, not yet.
But it is a very good one. I mean, it can't be long now until the DVD's out, I think, so you'll have to see that when it comes out on DVD because I think you'll agree that is a very good film and they deserve to get recognition.
Yeah, they were hoping that Michael Haneke would win Best Director for it, for Amore. It was between him and it was actually Spielberg was even up for that as well, and so they wanted Michael Haneke, but I think he was sort of like the outside runner kind of thing. But the full list of the Oscar winners are up on the site on mondaymovieshow.co.uk, even including the tiny little fact at the bottom. So make sure you read all the way down to the bottom, and I put a tiny little fact in there, which is quite interesting.
So we've had our news, we've had our UK box office top 10. Now we're going to have an ad before we go into some reviews.
Right, advert. What do I need to say in an advert? Well, I need to say that we're the Gamescast. I need to say that we're on Twitter at the Gamescast. I need to say we're on Facebook. I need to say we've got a website, thegamescast.com, and I need to say we're on YouTube. Oh yeah, and we're on this thing called Spreaker.com. Don't know where that came from. What else? That's probably it. Right, better record it. Oh, crap. That was 30 seconds. The Gamescast. Grown-up gamers talking about games. Allegedly.
You're listening to the Monday Movie Show on Spreaker Web Radio with myself, Andrew Hazel, and Stuart Miller, my co-host there, who is now going to go on to our first cinema review.
That was really slick. It's like you practiced that.
I had it going in my mind for the last 10 minutes since you messaged me and reminded me that I forgot to say our names at the start of the show.
Yeah, but did you even have to mention our surnames? Come on,
Why
we
not?
need some anonymity.
It sounds professional. Our names are
We're
on our
not
Twitter account
professional.
Anyway.
Come
it
on,
sounds professional. No, we're not professional. We're not professional, but it sounds professional.
That's because we seem to screw up a lot of the reviews and make a lot of mistakes a lot of the time. So why not make it sound more professional?
We've got 4 films to review. Let's get going.
Yeah, I'm blabbering on as usual. Anyway, the first film up is Mama, and a lot of people are thinking it's produced by Guillermo del Toro. It's not. He's an executive producer on the film. It's one of these typical movies that del Toro decides to do. He gets in another director and he sort of like teaches them. It's the kind of thing that Michael Bay did with the remakes of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a few other films, the remakes that he was obsessed with doing. And so Mama, it is executive produced by Guillermo del Toro, but it's directed by Andreas Muschietti. And it's sort of like got the same kind of premise as your typical ghost story. In this front, it centres on a father. It happens in the credit crisis. He ends up losing a lot of money. He decides to take matters into his own hands. I'll not describe what he does. He then runs off with his 2 daughters to this small little cabin. Something happens to him, and the daughters are left alone. Or are they? 5 years down the line, the brother of the father who left the kids at this cabin decides to hunt down these kids. He's been searching for them for 5 years. He then ends up hiring people so they can look for the kids. They are discovered in this cabin. Again, there is something there. They're took into child custody, and the brother is then told that he could look after them as long as they go up to a psychiatrist so they can get some psychiatric help. They end up getting some psychiatric help. They end up then going home with the brother with his sort of like girlfriend, who's played by Jessica Chastain in her first role in a horror film of kinds. And they've brought along this weird entity which seems to scare the house. And that's all I'm going to say about the plot of the film, because with ghost stories, it's best not to give away too much. Because if you give away too much, then there isn't anything left to your imagination and you're not going to get scared from any of the film itself. Now, the film itself, it works sort of. It is this typical movie where there are ideas in the film which works really well. Specifically, it is quite twisted at times. There are elements when you do go into Jessica Chastain's dream and you see her twisted nightmares that occur because of this entity that's being brought into the place itself, and they are really interestingly done. It is sort of like really twisted and quite well done. It's just everything in between seems a bit normal. You've seen it before. You get the typical like jumps, the typical loud noises, the typical something behind the person. So everything seems very typical. It's just when it gets into dreams, that's when the imagination comes alive. The end of the film, which I'm not going to spoil, all I'll say is it's got a sort of like a melancholic kind of ending rather than a resolute ending that you normally expect in movies like this, or a downtrodden ending that you might get. It decides to go for a more melancholic kind of weepy kind of feel, try to pull at your heartstrings a little bit, and it's quite unexpected in a horror film like this. Jessica Chastain is really good. She's very different. It's a different character, and I think she's a very chameleon kind of actress who can seem to take on roles which are out of her comfort zone. And she did that with 0 Dark 30. I think she was brilliant in that. And she does hold up the movie really well. You've also got a husband, or the brother of the children, who's played by Rick Moranis. Not that one. And he's okay in the film as well. And it is an average film. It is a good film. And a few people might get scares from the movie. I just wished it was a little bit more inventive, like what Guillermo del Toro can do if he produced the film himself rather than just being an executive producer.
So is this up to this? It's not really up to the same kind of level that he would bring to it, but is it, as someone else doing it in his style, is it any good in that regard?
The last time, see, he does this a lot. He did this with Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which didn't work that well because it was playing out more like a kids kind of horror film, like The Hole and maybe Gremlins at a push. But it isn't as successful as, say, The Orphanage, when he got Juan Antonio Bayona and he was an executive producer on that, and I think Bayona showed how brilliant he was. Andreas Muschietti, this is his first film, and so he's got a good stepping stone to build upon. This is a good thing for him. He's worked alongside Del Toro now. He can get some ideas from him, and hopefully, if he decides to stick with this genre, his next film might be a success, better than Mama. But that's not to say Mama's not a bad film, because there has been too many really mediocre or terrible ghost films of the last few years, and this is one of the better ones.
Okay, sounds interesting. I probably still won't go and see it though. Cloud Atlas, which is a film that I have been waiting for a long time to come out here. Came out last year in America. It's it's based on the book by David Mitchell, the same name. It's directed by Tom, I don't know if it's Tykwer or Tikwa, but directed by him and Andy and Lana Wachowski. The three of them have come together to put this, basically make a movie based on this book, which is very difficult to try and explain. The film is essentially 6 stories where you have set at different times with an actor in each role as the central character. Each of them you have sort of Tom Hanks in one, Halle Berry in another, Jim Broadbent in another, Jim Sturgis in another one, Duna Bay in one other, and then you have I can't think who the last person is. James Darcy, I think, is the one that's... I'm trying to think who it was now. But they have 6 of the actors of this cast, each having their own story. As they progress through time, starting sort of in the 1800s, to a few stories in the 20th century, to a couple of stories then that finish it off set in the future. Each one has this sort of a thing where they are sort of connected with each other by certain things that happen in one, influence the events and have effect on the future stories that are coming up later on. So it's kind of like a thing of how things have a knock-on effect, how you react, how what you do has a knock-on effect for things even after your life has ended. Here's a clip.
Belief, like fear or love, is a force to be understood as we understand the theory of relativity and principles of uncertainty. Phenomena that determine the course of our lives. Yesterday, my life was headed in one direction. Today, it is headed in another. Yesterday, I believed I would never have done what I did today. These forces that often remake time and space, that can shape and alter who we imagine ourselves to be, begin long before we are born and continue after we perish. Our lives and our choices, like quantum trajectories, are understood moment to moment. At each point of intersection, each encounter suggests a new potential direction.
For anyone who is interested, because that clip kind of doesn't do it justice listening to it. Now, the clip is also available online. I have posted it up on mondaymovieshow.co.uk. The details of that on there, and it is a slightly longer version because there is a kind of a spoilerish thing that happens in it, so beware of that if you are going to watch it. But as that voiceover by Tom Hanks there was being done, you did see the film cutting between a few of the stories one after another, sort of explaining his words, showing how one thing in one story would then affect something in the other. It would have this knock-on effect. The thing of it is that I know that people have had issues with this. I found it worked for me, but a lot of people have had issues with the way the film was put together. In the book, these 6 stories are told separately, one after another. In the film, what they have done is actually edited them to interplay with each other as the whole film goes on. So from start to finish, you are cutting between the whole of the 6 stories. It is, aside from a couple of bits right at the very beginning, it is in chronological order for each of the stories. So you see the beginning of the film of each of story 1, the beginning of story 2, so on 3, 4, 5, 6, and then as time progresses on, you keep following them in order. So you still get that continuity of each story, just that you have to keep your focus on that there are 6 stories going on at the same time that you're cutting between. Now, the thing is with that, I mean, obviously people are going to struggle with it a bit. Another thing that doesn't help is because there are that many stories in there and there's that much to focus on, the film does run for nearly 3 hours. It's 2 hours and 52 minutes in length. Again, I didn't have a problem with this, but again, people will have problems, I know, because of the fact of focusing on 6 stories for nearly 3 hours is going to be an exhausting challenge, to say the least. It's really well directed. It's really nicely put together. The only thing that I want to say especially about it is the fact that it is an independent movie, as Stuart's already said earlier. It had just over $100 million budget, which for an independent movie is a staggering amount. It's the kind of money you'd have for making a Hollywood blockbuster. But it is not a Hollywood blockbuster, and I'm going to say this, I'll stand by it. This is an art movie. I absolutely loved this. It is my favourite film of the year so far. It's I've seen it twice, and I fully intend to see it again. And the thing is, when I saw it the second time, there were things that I picked up on it more during it, and I put more of the threads together in it. There's great performances from everyone. The really interesting thing is you've got those main sort of 6 actors that play the main role in each film, but all of the 6 actors and a few other actors play roles in all 6 of the stories, and they play different roles. Some of them play different sexes, some of them play different races, and by that I mean things like skin colour effects are done, which are really impressive, amazingly so in some of the cases. Halle Berry in one of the stories is made to look Caucasian and white, and it is literally, the first time I saw it I was like, what? And I couldn't figure out that it was her. I have to admit, I didn't figure out it was her at first. I saw it, and then it cut back to her later on. I'm like, yeah, that is her. I honestly was surprised by that. It's great at covering, because that kind of leads into the thing as well. It covers the story, the subjects of things like racism and imprisonment and slavery and freedom, and those are themes that carry on from start to end in all 6 of the stories. So I'm going to say that people should see these. If anything, for the epic spectacle that it is. They may not enjoy it. Go into it expecting, I mean, with an open mind. There's great things here. Even if you don't like it, you have to admit that as a film, it is something to behold and be wondered about. And for me, that's what it is. And as I say, seen it twice already. I intend to see it 3, if not 4 or 5 times. I will see this again and again.
Yeah, I'm not as eager on the film as you, because
I know you've not. I mean, there's people who have given it absolutely complete thumbs down reviews, absolutely hated it. Well, I know you didn't, but
yeah, give me a chance for a second. I'm not as bad as that though, because I did like the film. I thought it's a very brave movie. It's a really brave film to come out now, or actually to come out in the state of what Hollywood is in, to have an independent film that costs $100 million, and you can see why it cost that, and how the fact that they've managed to get the funding. You look at the start of the film and the amount of different companies that they've got up on screen, the amount of places that they had to go to get the funding is immense. But I admire the film for what it was trying to do, because I just found it a bit schizophrenic though. I found that I understand that they decided to go with a conscious decision of taking the stories and splitting them up rather than doing it like a portmanteau kind of horror film, a bit like VHS, which we reviewed a few weeks ago. They decided to do it more in the chop up kind of style. Yeah. But I just found like it skipped between them so often and too often that I didn't find myself grounded in any of the stories that much until it starts to get properly tied up at the end, which I think you need to stick with the movie to the end rather than don't dismiss it because it is schizophrenic. If you do stick with it to the end, you will get the payoff that the movie deserves, because it does get properly tied up, and it could have been a mess, but because the way it's handled at the end in the last 20-25 minutes, it actually turns out to be a better movie than you think it is while you're watching it. There are elements of the film which I didn't think worked very well. I didn't like the fact that there was like the comedy elements of the film. I didn't like that. I just thought it didn't work very well with the story. But overall, it's a really ambitious film, and I'm glad that the directors decided to take an ambitious kind of stand with the film. Try to do something different.
I'm kind of curious. I'm hoping when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, it will get because apparently there was like a 5-hour long run version of it, and I'm hoping that we get something of that, or because there's possibly even a version where you can watch all 6 of the stories separately. I think that they've edited it together in this fashion though, because one of the things that you can see as you watch it in this fashion is how the stories affect the other stories more directly than if you saw them one story after another. And I'm wondering if they did put it together originally as it was in a book and then realised, no, this is better if we do it this way, because of that reason, because you can see kind of the threads as they link through from one story to others. I think that's why they've done that. And for me, as I said, I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. I thought that worked really well. It's one of those films you have got to pay attention for, which is a challenge for 3 hours. But as you're saying there, you do that, you will get the payoff at the end.
Yeah, because it is tied up. It's tied up brilliantly. It's tied up fantastically. The conclusion of the movie is really well handled. And I think under different directors, I think it might have collapsed.
I'm also going to say for that the soundtrack to the film, I absolutely love the soundtrack.
I agree with that as well. The soundtrack is fantastic.
The music is absolutely. It's a beautiful film, but the soundtrack especially is part of that. The music on it, which is by Tom Tykwer, is one of the 3 people who did the composing on it. I mean, you've got Johnny Klimek and Reinhold Heil were also the other 2 people. But it's amazing, and it's kind of like a main character of it because of the fact of the music is something that in one of the stories is written and referred to as the Cloud Atlas Sextet, which is a story about 6 stories and how they tie together as one of the characters sees it. So it's kind of all there.
Yeah. I'll quickly go on to the next review, just in case we do run out of time. I'll not be very long with it anyway. It's only a small little German film called Law, or depend on how you pronounce it. It's actually written as Law, but it's actually pronounced as Laura. It's directed by Kate Shortland, who's an Australian director, and she's done this in German for an interesting reason, which I don't know why. I never found out why. And it's just a very simple storyline. It centres around a character, Laura, played by Saskia Rosendahl, who is, during World War II, near to the end of World War II, Adolf Hitler has been supposedly kidnapped and killed, or found and killed, and she's been split off from her mother and father. They have been taken and put in concentration camps by the Americans, and Laura has to look after her siblings, take them across the country so they can get to their grandmother's house. That's it. That's as simple as the storyline gets. During her journey, though, she runs into a supposed Jew, who ends up pretending to be the brother of Laura and her siblings, just so they can get past certain checkpoints, so it's easy for them to get to their grandmother's house. Now, the movie itself is quite harrowing at times, because it is set during World War II, and it's interesting that they decide to tell the standpoint of view from right at the end of World War II, when it's just finished and Adolf Hitler has supposedly been killed, how the Germans reacted, the fact that they were still devoted to Adolf Hitler and they still believed that what he did was the right thing, rather than what the rest of the world saw, the fact that he was an evil B-word. It's very well directed. Kate Shortland has done a brilliant job on this film. Saskia Rosendahl, who plays Laura, she's also fantastic in the movie as well. Like I said, it is harrowing at times. It does fall a little bit because it does become a bit, like, I wouldn't say too up on itself, but it realises it's melodrama and it plays on that. Some people might see it as a strength. Some people might get slightly annoyed at it and thinking, will you just get on with the story? And I think it probably would have worked more if it was like a 60-minute film rather than a full-length feature film. But in the end, it's still really well acted and it's still really well directed. And if you can find it anywhere, please hunt it out.
So I'm going to quickly go on to a song for Marion, or just Song for Marion as it's called, or it's being called in America for some reason, I don't know why, Unfinished Song. It's written and directed by Paul Andrew Williams. It's a small independent British film. It stars Gemma Arterton as Elizabeth, who is a woman who is sort of teaching an old age pensioners group, going through them sort of singing, and a sort of a vocal group, sort of choir. Now, in amongst this group is Marion, who's played by Vanessa Redgrave, who is married to Arthur, played by Terence Stamp. He is the sort of the outsider. He doesn't want to be anything to do with this. He just turns up to pick her up from this choir meeting. He stands outside hearing them singing, and standing there sort of listening, smoking a cigarette, waiting for them to finish, and then walks her home. There's this ongoing thing of that him and Marion are married. Everything sort of seems to be going sort of okay for them as pensioners and everything. His relationship with his son, James, played by Christopher Eccleston, isn't brilliant, and things are sort of on a declining slope with them when there is a tragedy that happens and Marion is taken into hospital. Because of that, then Arthur then has to go to the choir and speak with them and actually be part of them because Marion asks him to. Here's a clip.
Hey, if you happen to see the most beautiful girl who walked out on me, tell her I'm sorry. Tell her I need my baby. Oh, won't you tell her I love her?
You've got a good voice, Arthur. Do you want to sing another one?
All right.
You're a dark horse, Arthur.
So after that, he grudgingly sort of joins the choir he basically comes in after the choir and everyone's gone. He doesn't want them to see him and hear him singing, and he goes through into sort of singing lessons with Elizabeth, and she sort of coaches him on a bit for this group choir actually going in to perform in a competition. Now, the thing with Song for Marion is it is a small British film. It's got the decent cast there of Gemma Arterton, Christopher Eccleston, Terence Stamp, who is absolutely fantastic in it, and Vanessa Redgrave, who is also fantastic too. It's a small film, so it's not a big directorial job. It's got a decent direction behind it. It looks okay for this. I mean, it's a low budget thing, so it's not got the best things, but it has got a lot of heart to it. It is a really emotional story. It is really well written. The characters work on so many levels that you will find, if in there, you will find something that will relate to yourself and to your own life in at least one or maybe even more of the characters in the film. It's a sweet film. There's moments where it will almost bring you to tears. It may even bring people to tears in it. Other people who, if you find something in there, obviously it links to your own life. Terence Stamp is absolutely fantastic in it. He kind of starts off almost like an evil old man, doesn't want anything to do with anyone else. He's the grumpy old git basically, and he plays that really well. But then as the movie goes on, he sort of he warms up to everyone and starts becoming part of it. And then he has this problem though still, that his relationship with his son, with Christopher Eccleston's character, the two of them always fight whenever they meet up. They don't get on. There's issues there, family issues there, and the two of them in their scenes together are brilliant. You should see this film because of the fact of it's one you could see with anyone of any age. You could see this with your parents. It's not a film like a film that's coming up in the DVD section where if you try and watch it with your parents, it's embarrassing. It's nothing like that. It is a good, kind, heart-warming film. Has a little bits here and there of comedy, and it's all round a fantastically written script, fantastically performed, and a really well directed film.
Yeah, and sorry for that little bleep there if you heard it. That was my iPod going off, stupid thing.
That's it for the DVD. So I keep going to the DVD bit. No, that's
at
it
least
for
you're
the
more
cinema
professional
section.
more professional than me and leaving my bloody iPod on so it makes a stupid noise like that.
I'm just lucky
Stupid
not
thing.
to call me. My phone's on vibrate, so you'll hear it vibrating if anyone does. That's it for the cinema section. If you hang around on Spreaker, if you're listening to us live, refresh the page in a couple of moments, and we'll be back with our DVD section, which is absolutely packed with 8 films and our TV movie of the week. See you then.